Hello, I'm Chris Barrow with the BBC News. The United States, the world's second biggest emitter of greenhouse gases, is among several countries that have announced new and ambitious targets to reduce climate change. During a global video summit, President Biden pledged to commit to halving emissions by 2030. It marks an end to 4 years of scepticism under Donald Trump. From Washington, here's John Sopel.
Is much more ambitious even than when Barack Obama signed up to the climate change deal in 2015. So those are the optics of it. But it's also going to require a change in American people's behaviour. The gas-guzzling cars that they drive might have to go. The way they heat and cool their homes might have to change. And also industry as well, where coal and oil are consumed in very large quantities. So those are the challenges. But there's also the political challenge of getting this through Congress.
The Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has adopted a conciliatory tone at the climate conference in spite of widespread criticism of the country's record on deforestation and forest fires since he came to office 2 years ago. Leonardo Rocha reports.
Mr. Bolsonaro has made a commitment to achieve zero carbon emissions in Brazil by 2050, 10 years earlier than previously agreed. He made no mention of a controversial deal his government has been negotiating with the Biden administration in order to reduce the destruction of the Amazon and other natural habitats. Brazil says it needs $10 billion a year to implement such projects and meet the new target. Critics say the possibility of receiving large funds from foreign donors is the true reason behind his change of stance.
US civil rights leaders and prominent politicians have joined hundreds of mourners at the funeral of Daunte Wright, the black motorist shot dead earlier this month by police. The service in Minneapolis heard impassioned appeals for police reform. The veteran activist Al Sharpton said it was time for the police to understand that they were not above the law. A team of Russian doctors allied to the jailed Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny have appealed to him to call off his hunger strike immediately. They warned that he could die if he continues to refuse food for even a short time. Grant Ferret reports.
When Alexei Navalny began refusing food at the end of March, his main demand was to be granted access to his own doctor, which is allowed under Russian law. That hasn't happened, but he was moved earlier this week from the penal colony where he'd been held to a separate prison hospital. In their statement, doctors linked to Mr. Navalny say he has now received something akin to an independent medical examination. They urge him to end his fast now, before it's too late. One of Mr. Navalny's aides said the Russian authorities had responded to public pressure.
This is the latest world news from the BBC. Gunmen have attacked a hospital in northwest Nigeria's Kaduna state, abducting 2 nurses. Kidnappings for ransom by criminal gangs have become common in the country, but this is the first time a hospital has been targeted. The UN World Food Programme says that an attack last month on the town of Palma in northern Mozambique has caused tens of thousands to flee the area, adding to a growing humanitarian crisis. Dozens of people were killed in the 5-day assault by jihadists. Our Africa regional editor, Will Ross, reports.
Queuing up to get food is becoming the norm for more and more people in northern Mozambique. The attacks by Islamist militants have forced families to flee their homes, abandoning everything. The UN says half of all the displaced children are showing signs of chronic malnutrition, which can have lifelong consequences. The police say a sense of panic is being stirred up by rumours of further attacks. The terror inflicted by the insurgents has had a huge impact.
A Bollywood music composer, Shravan Rathod, has died of COVID-19 at a hospital in Mumbai. He was 66. He was one half of the musical team Nadeem Shravan that produced a string of hit songs for Hindi films in the 1990s. India is in the grip of a second wave of coronavirus infections. A Syrian seafarer is on his way home after being marooned aboard a ship off the Egyptian coast for 4 years. For much of that time, Mohammed Aisha was alone on the MV Aman and forced to swim ashore to buy food. After the vessel ran aground near the Suez Canal, the Egyptian authorities named Mr. Aisha as its legal guardian, meaning he had to stay aboard. He was allowed off after a campaign by the International Transport Workers Federation. And that's the latest. BBC News.